Peanut Gallery. We are going to talk about legacy and longevity. I am one of your hosts, Jen, joined by my longtime mentor, Mr. John here.
Hi, I'm John.
You're John. Yeah, I know. It's funny. We didn't really get into how we knew each other, but I thought, oh, how funny. All the things this week actually tackle us working together 25 years ago.
Yes, let's talk origin story, shall we?
When you were this amazing young executive, and I was green and learning everything in corporate America. But we haven't talked since Halloween. How have you been?
Good, good. Well, except for the dental emergency last week, but
Oh,
that
yeah.
worked out just fine.
I have to
But
go to the dentist soon.
remember, kids, take care of your teeth, or
Mm,
they will take care of you,
mm.
and not in a good way.
No, they are not. They are not nice. So much has been going on, though. We were talking offline about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which
Hmm.
happened. But the shutdown ended.
Oh yeah, it's been a whirlwind. You had the Tuesday vote, you had the battle for the shutdown, you had the
Mhm.
shutdown end, you had the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. There's probably 17 other things I'm forgetting about, but those
Yeah,
are the ones that are kind of top of mind.
it's funny because it hit, I had run my query and it was like, "Oh, the Supreme Court upholds same-sex marriage." And I'm like,
Yep, that was a big one.
"I don't know that I think another one's coming that
Oh,
they're
no, it
gonna."
definitely is.
Yeah,
It definitely is. Yeah.
I don't it's not strict scrutiny, which does go over Supreme Court cases, which is another great podcast that I listen
Yeah.
to. There was one that actually goes over all the cases, and I think, what a racket. Racket for
Oh,
law
that you
firms. I
can
mean
just go again, go
I
again, go
mean
again. Yeah, no, and that's exactly what's going to happen in that case. Is I think a lot of people were using the Kim Davis case as kind of a straw man or a test
Mhm.
to basically see if they could even get in front of the Supreme Court. They will get a much stronger and defensible case to bring up at some point. Almost everybody I know that's either a pundit or a lawyer is like, yeah, that's the strategy there.
I don't get it. I don't get what we are continuing to churn, uh, political money and time on,
Hmm.
things that have already been legislated.
Sure.
Like, I'd love to get your thoughts on Mom Donnie winning and everything else,
Sure.
because that actually goes back to, like, the separation of church and state. And we know I am perpetually online and typically through TikTok, and you're on
Right.
other platforms. On my TikTok this week, which tied into what we were talking about last time about watch the churches,
Right.
was this lady calling the various
Hmm.
churches and asking for formula, and then,
Hmm.
like, "Nope." Like, I would love for all of them to lose their their tax exempt status at
Right.
this point. Like,
Yeah, there's definitely some tit for tat that needs to come into play there at some point. But as long as this is just my political view, as long as these organized religious groups continue to find the right way to lobby,
yeah.
national political interest, it's just not going to go away, right? And we've kind of touched upon it in the past, but we could have a whole episode on the notion of what it means to be Christian in America versus the rest of the world,
I do
and
not
I'm
know.
sure get some really interesting clicks. But um, but yeah, no, I mean that was an interesting thing for me because it very quickly got viral and spiraled out to not only sort of was it a test of churches, was it a test of temples, was it a test of synagogues, and there were some people that were just obviously horrified by the result. Some people were like,
Mhm.
well, they clearly didn't call my place of worship. um, and it's a little bit for me kind of like the GoFundMe phenomenon. Like, why are we even to the point of having this conversation? Like, it shouldn't be I have to call some place like a place of worship to get baby formula or some sort of support, but that's sort of the point we're at. And now there becomes this sort of this test, whether virtue oriented, performative, whatever you want to call it, of whether or not these places of worship are, integrated enough into their communities that they can actually be a part of the community and support the community when the community needs it. But yeah, like I said, it's a very long and different
Yeah.
podcast.
I'll say that we have, and because I noticed it during the pandemic, I do have a lot of active churches in my area that do
Mhm.
food drives, or like they're like
Sure.
a food bank,
Absolutely.
because the cars line up and they
Yep.
they line up for over a mile. And so I know that that's happening. Where I seem to have a serious disconnect is because a lot of those cars, they're nice cars that are waiting food too. But there's
Yeah.
so many people that are homeless that it doesn't jive for me. I feel like there's definitely a disconnect.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about this, I think, with the SNAP situation, right? And
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see how, with the government spinning back up, how things spin back up. Because as
Mhm.
many people have observed, it's very easy to shut down the government. It's very hard to spin the government back up. It'll be interesting to see what happens with SNAP and those related benefits, because it was front page news in many, many different places that not only were the populations that were affected by SNAP much more embedded and widespread than I think people assumed.
Mhm.
But then you had pictures of, military personnel and military families going to food banks to get food as supplement because of what was going on with the government shutdown. And that right there, amongst every other thing, should be one of those, weights on the scale that says, nope, this is wrong. That's enough. Let's just move forward. And I think it was last week, sort of in the aftermath of some of the conversations we were having, I saw somebody had written something in a major news article, and the phrase was like, children are starving through no fault of their own. And that phrase at the end, through no fault of their own, just lingered with me for days for so many different reasons. But just to have to put that in a sentence as sort of a construction or a conditional, to even think that that was a necessary part of the story that journalist was telling, really did not sit well with me. It's like, it should be, children are starving, full stop, period. You're done. And
I
the next thing should be about, what are you going to do about it?
I'm very ignorant on how various areas of the government are allowed to have paychecks and payroll going through, but some don't. Like, all the senators keep getting their paychecks.
Yeah.
Um, I'm gonna say it, ICE continued to get their paychecks,
Hmm.
and most of those guys are actually contractors. They're not even
Right.
actual federal agents, so yo no say. But
Well, and I think,
I was like, how is it you could just not fund that? But then give, 40 billion to,
well, and yeah, remember, some of these things have been codified, right, into regulation and law, that the air traffic controllers aren't going to get paid, but they also can't stop doing their job, right?
speaking of air traffic control,
Right.
the UPS plane.
Hmm. That's another thing that
Holy
happened.
shiitake mushrooms.
Yeah.
I mean, that's my worst case scenario. Like, I walk the dogs on the water, and I was like, "Oh, like, that would be like, Final Destination kind of like a
Right. Yeah.
movie scene that's happening." Like,
Yeah. Hmm.
you would've if you had enough controllers in the control tower, they would have said, "Hey, abort that. You are on fire."
Well, it's interesting. I didn't catch that until days after, and I
Mm,
have to admit, um, I've not followed up on what they've said the after action was. I saw sort of the initial casualty, and I saw a lot of the destructive footage that they put out there. So I don't know what the cause is, but
mm.
yeah, it's another thing to think about. Like, if something like that had happened in the '80s, that would be front news, top of the cycle for days and days and days.
Days. Yeah.
And now, if it lasts more than 24 hours, it's pretty shocking. But you mentioned the air traffic controllers. Have they been able to attribute some lack of staffing to the accident, or?
That was some of the commentary I had heard, that if they had actually had a full staff in the control tower,
Mm.
At all
They
these
would have
airports.
noticed the
They
plane
would have
multiple
said
times.
because you had a guy with his camera, and he was like,
Mm.
turn around. That thing's not gonna do well because it's on fire." And
Mm.
it was on fire on the runway. So it
Oh,
was just
really?
a big
Oh,
ball on the runway, and then I think it
yeah.
fell off, but I am not an investigator, so I mean, I play one on TV, but,
I was on a jury trial once where our lead foreperson, that was her job. She was an NTSB, like major event investigator. She had
wow.
some stories.
I just like, you're right though, because you think what's going to happen to that area? What's the
Hmm.
chemicals in the air in that area? I think of like even a few years ago when it happened in Palestine. I think was it Pennsylvania or
Right. The
Ohio? Yeah,
train
the
wreck.
train. Like I wouldn't want to live there.
Yeah.
Like, I would be like, I don't trust the water. Like, but shout out to everybody getting through that.
Yeah.
Um, David Beckham was knighted, and Dick Cheney passed away.
Yeah. Vaguely interested in the first, don't really care about the second.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking of Cheney, Mr. The architect of war. Um, and I'm also thinking of New York because he was pivotal in the shenanigans there. But Mr. Mamdani won in New York.
Yes.
And then you have a new mayor up in Seattle too that won, correct?
We do. I think as of yesterday, it was officially declared, and the previous mayor conceded, and it was close, like under 2,000 votes, I think,
Um,
when last I saw. But it was also very interesting because um, our mayor was the incumbent. He was fairly centrist, well regarded by a bunch of different parties, both from the perspective of sort of business and commerce in the city as well as citizens. But uh, the woman who now is mayor elect, really kind of came up through the ranks. Was very much a grassroots effort.
mm,
Seemed to be a lot more in touch with what I'd consider more, street level conversations and values that were going on. And when the election first happened, uh, it looked like the incumbent was going to stay in. But the votes kept pouring in, and then it flipped 3 or 4 days ago, and boom, there it is. So
not,
it'll be interesting to see. It really
yeah,
will be.
not necessarily a referendum, but a
No,
change.
but definitely a change of mind, right?
Yeah.
And given what happened on Tuesday, it's an interesting continuation of what seems to be a pretty strong trend in at least blue politics. And I've made no secret of it. I think Mamdani was due, and I thought he was going to win, and I think he's a really interesting candidate. And I say that as somebody that's lived in the New York area before and seen it at both kind of its highs and its lows. And I think he's the right guy for now. And for those people that are freaking out, I think they need to sit down. They really need to think about why they're freaking out, because there's nothing on his agenda that is unrecognizable as a workable political stance in the U.S. Now, whether it's feasible,
Mhm.
that's a different conversation.
Mhm.
But uh, for those folks that are like it's unrealistic or it's pie in the sky
Mm.
or something more slanderous, I won't even go into. Um, I kind of feel like that's a failure of imagination. Like there's some problems out there that need some new approaches and some new conversations. I think people are more bent out of shape, and probably rightly so, especially if you're a big fan of the status quo, is the number of people from well-moneyed positions that donated against his campaign that just flat out chose the wrong the wrong horse in this race. I mean,
You know what?
the amount of money that was arrayed against him is stunning.
Keep that money coming. Go
Yeah,
donate it now to the transit system, so now it can be
right.
free. That's actually one of the ideas I was thinking of when he was talking about, free transit. I I believe I have to double check, I'll fact check this one. I believe that transit in, like, Phoenix and Tempe is no
Hmm.
charge or something, but
Yeah, it's not a new model. There are other urban and suburban areas that do it, and they do it because it's a good enabler of getting people from, home to work or home to a community or home to a service.
Mhm.
And it clearly is not, it's not a radical proposition.
I was thinking you could sell sponsor like, all the ads that you have in the buses, like, all of
On the
those
sides of the
things,
buses. Yeah,
like,
sure.
they were just talking about I think they have, like, 23 firms that have just, what's the word I'm looking for? That they basically reinvested and, they're looking to
Right.
build out their branding.
Yeah.
Great. Make that a part of the program,
Yeah.
like, that would be wonderful. So, anywho, gonna move it along here. Woo. I wanted to do, circling back on
Yeah.
our last one. We were talking about fungibility.
It's very funny you should say that. I was just having a conversation with a friend of mine today.
Okay.
Um, right. So you would mention that word. I said put a pin in it because I wanted to come back to it. And the reason why is because when we last talked about it, it had just popped up in Microsoft's earnings call.
Oh.
Yeah. And a lot of people took note that like the word fungible appeared like 8 or 10 times. And if you'd gone back to previous earning calls, it was not a word that was used a lot.
Mm,
And if you look at the definition of fungibility and what it means and how it's used in an investment sense, it it felt very much like Microsoft was coming out to say, hey, we're spending even more capex and more investment in AI related data centers and the infrastructure that's necessary. But the implication is it's not just for that, like because it's fungible, it's resource or asset or infrastructure that can be used for other things as well. So it felt a little bit like a hedge. Like, yeah, we're
mhm.
spending a lot of money on AI and data centers, but that's not the only thing that it can be used for. We might be able to leverage it for other things here, there, and everywhere, which I think is a little bit them trying to call their shot, and especially for the rest of their competitors in the space to say we are spending so much money on data center related infrastructure and the resources that power it. Please believe in what we're doing. Please continue to support the stock. And oddly enough, they posted great results.
Mhm.
Another fantastic period for the company. But because of that notion of are you spending too much in these areas, they didn't see the bumps that they were expecting. And so all of their competitors were suddenly like, wow, are we going to be in a similar position? So that notion of fungibility, when you mentioned it, was really like, wow, that's the word of the week. And it'll be interesting to see how it carries forward.
So I was introduced to that word, shout out Raj Sundaresan, who is the CEO of Altimetric. He was my former
Oh,
leader
right, right, right.
in
Yeah,
Excel. He was amazing. And we were always in this predicament of the workforce transformation. Did you have
sure.
too many contractors? Did you have these folks? And then we were like
Mm-hmm.
really looking at you'd have to go this was back when we were building out what is now Apple Pay. Like you had Ruby
Okay.
on Rails
Right,
engineers,
right,
and then
right.
you really had to figure out, well, do you have any iOS engineers and who are your Android engineers? And we were just like,
Mm-hmm.
why can't we just cross like the engineers want to learn and making them fungible was the way. I
Right.
did have a real jerk of a guy at Salesforce, who didn't like the fact that he didn't know that word, and he was like, "Oh, I don't get it," and he called me, he was like, "You don't have to use big words," and I was like, "I'm just using the appropriate word of."
Oh my goodness.
But with the fungibility of Microsoft, I think what they're saying is you see it as an expense today, but it's really an investment.
Yeah, right. And that's it's certainly an argument that can be made. And, I would, as, a current shareholder and
Yeah,
somebody that believes in the company and has many friends that work for the company,
yeah.
still, I want them to succeed. But I don't think anybody is being naive about the just eye-watering levels of investment that you're seeing go out the door these days. So it'll be very curious to see where it starts landing.
Yeah. Well, speaking of AI, I did want to clarify my statement. I had said that AI wasn't meant to replace people, and I do know that it was meant to replace people. I didn't
It
expect.
really depends on who you talk to.
Yeah, I guess I was thinking of it from we'll take Microsoft, for instance. It's not fully baked.
Right.
The assumption that AI can do this and it's gonna be received this way or this can be done,
Mhm.
I think was really disheartening for me to hear that these leaders haven't hired people and staff and their culture, and everybody wants to be the best place to work.
Hmm.
Everybody wants to say they have the greatest culture,
Hmm.
and then as a person, you are treated in a very disposable manner.
Right.
And as a person who was laid off, you get it is soul destroying when that happens, or
Yeah.
you get like, how did I over index my value into this corporation?
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
and I and I get frustrated because I also think there's a lot of great things you could be doing with AI, but to the expenses, it's because it's also draining natural resources
Oh
that we
yeah. The
will
yeah.
not be able to retain, and it's going to damage the environment at the rate that everybody's in competition with one another.
Yeah. I mean, the knock-on effects are clearly becoming more apparent. And there's this, I think we talked about it, this sort of understanding or hope that there's a race between AI may be using more resources, but AI will also figure out a way to use less resources for a better result. And there's obviously a lot of people that fall on both sides of that argument and a lot of skeptics in between. Um, and it'll be curious to see sort of when those use cases start coming out, right? So we've talked a little bit about the notion of AI productivity and what AI is really meant for, and what some of the Magnificent Seven are thinking about in terms of AI as a day-to-day helper or tool
Mhm.
or addendum to your life that helps kind of sweep away the dull, boring bits and helps you focus on the really interesting things. Um, but then there are the people that are really looking at it for game changing kind of behind the scenes work, like what you're seeing in the medical industry and big
Mhm.
pharma, and like new protein folding and new drug discoveries and all this other
Yeah.
stuff. And there's oh my goodness, what was it? Oh, not that we want to send traffic other places, but
Send it.
Trevor Noah's podcast has a
Oh,
really good interview with Mustafa Suleiman, who is really one of the big thinkers and doers in the AI space, and he wrote the book The Coming Wave probably 4 or 5 years ago, which was meant to be a pretty honest take on what was coming and what he had seen as an AI practitioner for several years in his career. And he went on to found Inflection AI, I think is it,
mm,
and then eventually, which I think their Pi AI is very interesting. I kind of like playing around with it. Um, but then Microsoft went to him and brought him and certain numbers of his staff over in kind of a bloodless acquisition a year or two ago, to head up sort of the whole AI schema at Microsoft. And his interview with Trevor Noah is really interesting because I think it's optimistic, but I also think it's pragmatic, and it's good to reset some context on how some people that have been involved with AI for quite a long time are thinking about it, as opposed to the no offense to the marketers, but the but the marketing people that got thrown on an AI assignment 12 months ago, and they're like, you have to make this the greatest thing in the world.
yeah.
There's a pretty big gap.
Yeah. Well, speaking of, our first topic is on legacy, and I'd love to ask it, but I had Court Lorenzini on,
You
the
did.
one-on-one version,
Yep. Great
and that was
version.
actually a conversation that we were having. It was around AI. Court Lorenzini, shout out, distant cousin there. He is the co-founder of DocuSign and
Yep.
now part of this, founder Nexus. But he was saying he really wished that there was more collaboration around AI versus the individual giants that were doing
Hmm.
everything. Um, and I love that idea because I think that's what we all want. Like, we all
Hmm.
want, like, get it to be the best, but
Right.
also, to our last episode, profits are king,
Yeah.
and that's what they're prioritizing on each of these guys. So,
Yeah. It's gonna be a hard road to travel for a while. And but yeah, I thought your talk with Court was great. I loved his bit, which I think you highlighted, about the talk about your experience and
yep,
bringing your experience to a conversation, into a
yeah,
problem solving situation, which is great for anybody who's interviewing for jobs these days. Like, go back and watch that segment, because that's some solid game advice right there.
yeah, yeah. What does legacy mean to you?
Oh, It's
You come
funny.
from a military family, and I think
Yeah,
how many
it's
generations have you guys had military in your family?
3, maybe 4,
Wow.
and that's consecutive. There's probably I know there are some farther back, going back all the way to the American Revolution, if you can believe that. But yeah, what does legacy mean to me? It's isn't this a Hamilton song? Um,
I don't remember.
it's I don't know. It feels easy to think about it. I think it's harder to articulate. It's yes, you can certainly say your legacy is what you leave behind, but I like to think of it more as what you've set in place to live on after you,
Mhm.
right? Your children can be your legacy. Some of the work that you do can be your legacy. Some of the organizations or things that you put in place can be a legacy. You can have a library, and that can be a
Mhm.
legacy. Um, but I tend to shy away from the it's what you leave behind, but it's more what you're leaving to live on in the world, um, which is a pretty broad paint paintbrush
Um,
to use in drawing that picture. What about you?
I am really interested. I do my ancestry.
Hmm.
I do my genealogy. I work with a cousin once a week to actually record her stories because she is this is actually a really cool photo that I have
That's neat.
of,
That's a great idea.
this is everybody that got us to San Francisco.
Oh yeah, I remember you
Really.
talking about that. That's
Yeah, and
fantastic.
these are all the grandparents with that last name were in San Francisco. So we have, I think, about 7 generations in San Francisco that we really
Wow.
go back. Um, the first foot on what we now know as the Americas, I think happened in Jamestown. Maybe it wasn't even Jamestown. It was
Really?
like
That far back?
1608. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
and
fantastic.
I think of that because we when you do your genealogy, you're really giving a voice to those who came before you.
Hmm.
Sometimes the stories aren't so great,
No.
and you're just like, "Oh, okay, that's the way it goes," like,
if
that's
if finding your roots has taught us anything, is that you need to take the good with the bad, and there may be a lot more bad than you expected.
yeah, I also have a son who has a different side of the genealogy, so
Right.
he is less, interested in it than I am because, so
Understandably.
yeah, so his
Understandably.
my son is half, Black American, and that comes from a family lineage that has, slavery in it, chattel
Yeah.
slavery in it, and when I got to that part of his side, it gutted me. It
Oh, yeah.
gutted me, um, but it was also it made me a little bit more, defensive of
Mm.
when people, like, are very blasé about those things, and I'm just like, "What is your deal, man?" Like, you should be able to look back on these things. Although, I take this back, because just today, um, a disgraced former newscaster was trying to whitewash pedophilia.
Oh yeah,
So,
I
I
saw that.
think that everybody is like, as though grooming a 15-year-old was just, that was the time, as in 10 years ago, and it doesn't matter. So, I just think that people
Even though that newscaster is on record as saying that that was inappropriate, if you go back, far enough. But also at the same time, the
and
immediate
has a
reaction
daughter
I
that age,
had was, "What?"
has a daughter that age.
Yeah, that my immediate reaction was, "What if it was your daughter? What if it was you? Like, what were you doing at 15 years old that makes you think that that is a good idea?" Right?
Wasn't there an entire
Yeah.
movie about her sexual harassment at Vox? What
Yeah, we don't got that type of time.
yeah. One
But anyway, as you were saying.
So one of the coolest things I found though when I was doing our family legacy, because we come in, obviously, we were part of the Revolutionary War and we were
Right.
all of these things that are fun to talk about. One of my favorite cartoons as a child was American Tail
Oh, right.
with
Five
Fievel
Mouse.
Mouskowitz. Yeah,
Yeah.
Fievel Mouskowitz. And to find out that my great grandma, after Jenny, her name was Minnie.
Mhm.
She came from Wootz, in
Right. Oh,
Poland,
yeah. Remember you telling me that. Yeah.
and her last name was Moskowitz, and that was the name of the family, and I was like,
So
"Oh my goodness."
immediate connection right
I was
there.
like, "Yay, I got my own mini Moskowitz." I love it. So but we don't have I think currently my family is not, um, really partaking in the fact that we have a large, beautiful, healthy family.
Mm,
I think that we've kind of, dispersed and kind of going our way.
yeah.
I don't know what our legacy will be in the end. I'm one of, between my 2 families, 17 grandkids,
All
and
right. That's
that
a good one. Yeah.
yeah, 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 we've got and my grandfather was 1, and he gave birth he had 4 children who now
Right.
have, I think, 20 great-grandkids and
Wow.
10
That's
grandkids, and
impressive. Yeah.
yeah, but we don't have, like, that, like, military service or thing. The only thing we have in common right now is California, and right now, we're not all seeing California.
Yeah, I can see. Yeah, it's interesting to go back to that because I think um, when I think about like the notion of maybe not necessarily legacy, but certainly I don't even know if it's a vocation, right? But you look back across several generations of my family, and there are people that have served in the military, either short term or for their careers, um, teachers, yeah, theologians, social workers, and like naval architects, right? They're people that have really found something they wanted to do and stuck with it for the most of their career, and so, or at least a big enough chunk of their life that it defined them in some way, shape, or form. And yeah, it's. But my sister's a genealogist, so every once
Oh,
in a while, she's the one that I go and get a referral on. In fact, I saw something last week. What was it? Oh, it was time at the Fields of Roy,
mm,
which were these women that were basically called Daughters of the King. They were sent over to what is now kind of the Quebec region, French Canada,
mm,
um, to basically marry and start families with all of the male settlers that were over there. And so the king had a dowry for each of them. They knew what they were getting into, and relatively small population of women. I want to say 80, 100, maybe more.
mm,
I'll have to go back and do a fact correction on this one. Um, but incredibly important in terms of the population that eventually grew out of that region and into the rest of Canada, and even into the northern parts of the U.S. Like we have French Canadian, blood and backgrounds and family that from came over from Quebec and settled in the Northeast or Minnesota or what have you.
mm.
So yeah, it's always, and it is interesting when you do like the 23andMe or the Ancestry.com, and you start to see all the lines that go back to other parts of the world, and you're like, what?
Yeah, I mean, I our only claim we never went in through both sides of my family. We did not go through Canada. We were on the
Mm.
Mayflower, one but I'm always like, "Isn't that kinda like the QAnon of their time?" Everybody was on the Mayflower.
Yeah,
Um,
Schoolhouse Rock kind of slided over that part a little
yeah.
bit, smoothed it out.
Yeah, the other thing we had found I did my we do our G I did my G 23andMe, and I also
Mhm.
did the Ancestry. My son was not happy about that. He was just like, I
Yeah,
don't and I was like, "I don't know how to explain this to you. I'm just a white woman in America, so I only think of my life from my perspective."
sure, right.
But yeah, we're also we are the least religious family you could meet. And then to find out that our family was actually, like, the pioneers of the Latter-day Saints on one side of the family, and I'm like, "Oh, I didn't think that we were involved in it,"
You
but
go
nope.
far enough back, you find the Lorenzinis were related to a pope in the 14th century
Yeah,
or something.
yeah, the actually so, fun fact, Lorenzini wrote Pinocchio.
Oh,
Obviously and we now know Lorenzini also was one of the, godfathers of Silicon Valley here. Um, but we're also my family's also a, Casanova. and the
Oh,
dechamp.
this will be interesting.
Yeah, that's always a fun one. And then everybody else was just a hard worker, like, just keep
Yeah.
coming. And I was joking to somebody, I'm like, "I'm so grateful that they never really settled on the East Coast or in
Mm,
Missouri because they also started, they were part of, like, those who started Missouri and Kansas City,
mm,
etcetera. I'm
right.
so grateful they kept coming because I could not handle cold weather.
Mm,
Like, my body was only made for the Bay Area at this point. Like, even on a day like today, I'm like, "Ooh, floor's too cold. Can't handle it. It's raining outside." Have you done a 23andMe, or has your sister
oh,
done it?
yeah. Yeah, no, I've got it somewhere. It's always and it's funny too because it either helps support or debunk family legends,
Mm,
right? And, though I think for the most part, it kind of it put a check mark next to a lot of things we sort of already knew in
mhm,
terms of like location of where people were from. I don't think it reinforced it, but I think my sister dug it up somewhere that we too have a Disney property author in our background.
ooh,
The writer of Cinderella is a
wow.
far distant French relation. So yeah, it's always every turn over here. I'm like, oh yeah, let's go get our Disney money.
I'm really blessed because again, knowing just being a white woman in America, I have a lot more and being from English roots,
Hmm.
we do have the ability to have records that can go back to the
Oh
1500s,
yeah, yeah,
and that's just facts. It
yeah,
didn't get ruined in most of the war, but it just, it it is curious to me how I loved it. So I had one cut so I also think of, like, how we all got to California because
hmm,
we also had folks who just got here in, like, the nine in 1910, and they
hmm,
came directly from Europe, and that was,
sure,
the Polish Jewish side and then the Italian Catholic side. But they all came for the gold rush,
yeah,
I mean, and that was, like, the right after the Gilded Age, which sidebar, I think
great
that
show.
that is a great show. Great show. Every cast member is just like, "Give me more. I love you so much." And I always dream like, "Oh, I wonder if I came from them." I did not. I came from very, 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 very poor Irish who came
Right.
over and tried to even come in like, I had a grandmother who a great-great-grandmother, she gave birth to 10 children, and only 1 made it alive, and
Wow.
he ended up being in an orphanage because they all,
Right.
died
Sure.
of consumption, so, hey, JFK or RFK Jr., we need those. Oh, good grief. Him and his
Yeah, it's interesting. I think I'm blanking on my mom's side of my family, in when they came over, but I think it was fairly recently, like in the 1800s. And the folks that were like American Revolution are just way, way off on the tree. Um, but my dad's side, some came over to escape the czar,
mm,
and they were fairly recent. But then the folks on the French Canadian side obviously were here for quite a long time before they headed south.
yeah,
Um, yeah, so it is always very interesting to sort of see not only the windows, but then try and do the math as to why they might have come over, like what was pushing them out or what was pulling them in, and especially in the case of California and any of the gold rush spots, right, in North America, you see these incredibly diverse but rapidly aggregating populations come rushing in on that. Have you ever seen Deadwood?
yeah,
It was on
yeah,
HBO like 20 years
yeah,
ago.
yeah.
That whole notion of
You know
like,
what? I lied. Have not seen it.
oh,
I know about it, have not seen it.
definitely worth watching. I'm not
Okay,
sure how I missed
okay,
it the
okay.
first time, but it's one of the biggest gold rush, maybe the biggest gold rush in American history. And everybody and their mom came flocking to this little town in the middle of nowhere. Like it had people from all over Europe. It had people from China. It had people that would literally go from load to load. Like one month they'd be in Peru, the next month they'd be taking a steamer up to California, and just uh just the gold rush history is alone blow my mind.
Mhm.
And most people tend to think about, oh, they happen in California and Alaska. No, they happen all over the American West, and people just hopped from them, made whole careers
I
just
was
pursuing
thinking,
it.
speaking of the Gilded Age, because they got into basically Arizona at the end of
Mhm.
this last
Right.
season,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah, the sun goes out to kind of validate and figures
Yeah,
out, oh, there's a
and
lot more here. Sorry, spoilers.
yeah, it's coming, don't worry about it. But I'd taken a hot air balloon in Sedona, which 10 out of 10 recommend.
Yeah.
10 out of 10. Just don't go if you're not feeling well because the landing is rough.
A little rough.
Um, and they were talking about Jerome, is a little town.
Yeah.
Jerome? Yeah, it is Jerome. But it was owned by, Jenny Jerome's family.
Mm.
Churchill's mother's family owned those lands.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I forgot that Churchill had American roots on the side of his family.
Yeah. And I was thinking, I don't remember ever hearing about. I guess we didn't have mines because gold wasn't found in the mines, it was found in the river water, correct? Or were there gold mines
I
in California?
well, I think it's a little bit of both, right? I mean, it's
Okay.
you could probably you could build a gold mine, but
Mm,
there are many different ways of kind of getting to the ore.
mining the ore. I
Yeah,
just
but the stereotypical thing is the guy in the river panning for gold. Yeah.
yeah, I just don't remember any, like, baron, owning it all or whatever. We didn't learn about
Mm.
that in California. You know what, though? History lessons have been a little sparse these days. When you guys look at your genealogy, do you have people who've lived to be 100 a lot, or do you look at the longevity of folks?
I don't think we've got any century babies
Mm,
yet. Not at least not that I know of. That's a good question. I'll ask my sister and see what she says. But we've had some that have got definitely up to their 80s and 90s. In fact, I think at least one of my great grandmothers made it to her 90s.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, I don't know anybody who's made a century yet.
because I was gonna segue into the longevity
I figured
conversation.
that's where we were going. Yeah.
My great-grandmother lived to be 99. Her mother
Nice.
lived to be 103. Her
Wow.
sisters all lived to be that, but they came from people who lived that long, and I'm thinking, "How? How'd you do it?" 'Cause I'm trying to biohack my way through menopause at this point, so I'm like, "How did you" and I'll tell you this, though, she was a hustler. She worked in, you know, during Prohibition, like, she was in the
Mhm.
back rooms, like, helping make gin
Maybe
and
that's where you got
everything.
that flapper idea for the
Yeah,
costume.
so I got the flipper
Call
idea.
back to Halloween.
I was like, "I got you, sister." Um, gosh. How do you think about longevity?
Yeah, it's especially now that we're the age that we are.
Mhm.
Um, it's definitely something that I think is more prevalent on a day-to-day basis, but certainly just like every single time you go in for a medical procedure, right? And you're suddenly, you know, when you're 20s, you don't have a lot of medical history to report
You're
that
in, you're
you're
out.
on, right? You're reporting on your parents' history if you know that, and maybe your grandparents. Um, but you're like, I don't know. I think I sprained my ankle when I was 4. But yeah, now you're spending 15 minutes filling out a piece of paper at the beginning of an appointment just to make sure that they've got everything lined up. And it's it is interesting because we were talking about this and prepping for this, and I saw some of the comments. It's been it's been a point of curiosity for me, especially in the last 3 or 4 years. And maybe this is something that sprung out of the kind of the post-pandemic world. I'm not sure, but there seems to be a lot more emphasis on data-driven health outcomes.
Hmm.
So, like the Andrew Hubermans and their podcast, Pierre Adia and his podcast, and the Outlive book, which is right there.
Right here, right here. I love his book.
um,
I love
Book
him.
was great. I enjoyed the podcast a lot better, or the audio book a lot more.
You know what I loved was, the series he did with, uh, the Hemsworth brother.
Oh, right. I know what you're talking about, but I haven't seen it. But Limitless, was that
Yes,
it?
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, it's fantastic.
Um, but yeah, it's just very interesting to me that kind of with, this aggregation of data that we have about our health and what we're learning, through things like 23andMe and
Mhm.
Ancestry, and that you can do DNA tests, or you can go in and request, if you can afford it, because some of these are very expensive tests, kind of breakdowns of what's going on, then you can kind of gamify your health in some way, shape, or form. And I'd love to say I'm really good at it, but right now it's like, okay, what is my watch telling me,
Mhm.
and what is my app on my phone telling me? And there are days where I'm like, wow, yeah, I nailed it, just crushed it, did everything I was supposed to do, got enough sleep, got enough REM,
Yep.
worked out enough, got my intensity minutes, got my steps in. And then other days I'm like, yeah, I hate you, and I'm not looking at this
Yeah.
app for 4 days.
I'm just gonna put on a meditation to make this thing tick,
Yeah,
so I'll be fine.
but that's the other thing too, right? Is that in the last 10-15 years, there's a lot more easy, consumable, consumer oriented devices and data that you can actually sit down and look at, and almost to the point now where we're seeing kind of certain theories and hypotheses get cycled through, like the 100-year-old people, right, where they're
Mhm.
studying blue zones, like, and there's blue zone books, and there's blue zone cookbooks, and there's blue zone diets, and then there are people that are that now going back, looking at the data, saying, okay, was this a valid study? Like, was this person really, like, born in a part of Sardinia that didn't keep good records, and so everybody just kind of assumed they had lived for a
Yeah.
100 years? But nevertheless, there's a good baseline from a medical perspective, at least, of what you're doing to your body that's both good and bad, to the point where it has we have really kind of exploded into not only a sort of science and flim-flammery, but there's a really, unfortunately, a really robust body of pseudoscience, where people are trying to figure out, if I take 1,400 grams of ashwagandha today, am I gonna give myself an extra 7 hours of life or something like
Oh,
that?
I'm just
Yeah.
trying to avoid the hot flash.
Yeah, for me, it's all right. Can I actually get through an entire mobility workout and feel like I haven't ruined my chances of being able to walk upstairs
Oh,
for
do you, like, have, like, a daily routine for yourself?
I do, but once again, something that came out of the pandemic. Like,
Mhm.
before the pandemic, and especially when I was in college uh, and ROTC, and it's like your 20s and 30s, you're doing your best to kind of stay fit, because A, you want to, B, you suddenly have kids and you need to, and then your 40s and 50s become a negotiation. um, but also, I think it's, you get to your 50s and you look at your parents when they were 50, and you see some of
Mhm.
the problems that they were having, and you're like, what do I need to do about that? Do I want to go down that path, or do I want to pick uh, a different direction? And yeah, so it's funny, we started toying around with a bunch of different little apps, either workout apps or walking apps or whatnot, um, and we actually landed on Ladder. So I've been using Ladder for probably about a year, maybe a little bit longer now. um,
Ladder?
Ladder, and I think Ann first turned me on to it. I did, like, I don't know, 3 month trial, and it
Mm.
was it was good. It was interesting. There was always something new. You could move around in terms of different things you wanted to accomplish and what you wanted to do. You could set it. You could say, "Hey, I want to do 20 minutes today. I want to do an hour a day," and you get these things fed up to you.
Oh, that
And like
sounds
any
good.
other gamification, then you're suddenly looking, oh, I did this many reps, I burned this many calories, I walked this many steps, I reduced my stress level by XYZ. And you get a little addicted to the data.
I was devastated. So, first of all, I'm a Peloton girl.
Mm-hmm.
Love it, love it, love it. Discovered it in 2018, and 2019 had,
Mm-hmm.
some hiccups. And it really took off for me. I actually started with they have, there's one instructor, not one, there's a few instructors that I love. But his name is Matt Welpers. Shout out Matt Welpers. I hope you watch this. He's amazing. He does power zone training. So
Mm,
I
right.
love it because you knew exactly going in what the training was gonna be.
Right.
Because he
Exactly.
says it in the beginning, like, "Hey, we're gonna do 8 minutes in zone this and 8 minutes
Hmm.
in zone here, and this is gonna be the interval," and I was like, "Oh, thank God,"
Yeah.
because I do not have the stomach for you to just, like, spring on, like, a hit ride for me, like,
Right.
my mental health, I
Today, kids, we're going to
struggle.
be scaling Mount
Yeah,
Kilimanjaro.
I'm like,
Yeah.
"No, thank you." But I also have my watch, my Apple
Hmm.
Watch,
Yeah.
and it would have, like, I think I went, like, almost 4 or 5 years of consistently never all hitting all 3
Mhm.
rings every day, and 1 flight to
Yeah.
Australia ruined it because I couldn't even jimmy it
Right.
because I didn't have enough hours to have,
Right.
the cycles, but I will say that the Peloton community was my saving grace during COVID.
Hmm.
If I did not have that community, I do not know, 'cause I don't have an AM, you know?
Right.
I don't have, like, that companionship, that partnership, and I do love, like, reading up on blue zones and
Yeah.
doctors. Yeah, like, I love all of that and learning all of that,
Hmm.
but loneliness is a killer.
Oh,
Um,
yeah. Yeah.
like
Oh, it's funny you should say that because I do. I mean, I remember when Peloton really first exploded, right?
yeah.
And it was easy to be a Peloton hater, right? Just kind of like I'm like, wow, that's a really interesting cult you've joined, Jen. Um, but to your point, even people that had rich social lives and were getting out of the house or doing what they had like a lot of family or a lot of pets or whatever, it was almost like a virtual third place,
Yeah,
right? It was something new, there was some novelty there, but to your point, there was community and communication, and by communication I mean expectations were set up front and they weren't unrealistic, right? And that's the other thing that I like about the app that I use. Shout out Team Movewell and Coach Nicole. Um, in front of every single workout, there's the coach is out there saying, "Here's what we're going to do today." You get to see what it looks like. You get to see what the motions are going to be, and it's show up. It's first just show up. Congratulations for being here, but it's
yeah,
also like do what's best for you. Like if you have to modify, you have to modify. Like there's always a guided run in the things that I do towards the end of the week. And the coach will be the first person to tell you, look, this can be a walk, this could be
mhm,
a ruck, this could be on a bike, this could be on an elliptical, this could be on a stairmaster, it could be on a treadmill. I don't care. Like you're here, and that's what matters. And I think that expectation setting, and which is a soft expectation, right? You're not talking like drill instructors. Um, and then that sense of community that's both synchronous, especially in Peloton, because you can see everybody who's up and there with you,
yeah,
and also asynchronous that you can see, hey, 700 other people finish this workout today at some point, gives you a sense of okay, it's worth it to me to be here, and other people find value in it as well. And so it does get back to that notion of like, well, here's my tribe, at least
yeah,
for the next
yeah.
30 minutes.
I I have everything from Peloton. I have the rower, I have the treadmill, I have the
They
bike.
have a rower now. See, that's how out of
Yeah,
touch I am with Peloton.
yeah.
I knew about the treadmill and I knew about the bike.
So, I have the original treadmill that they were called because it killed a child, and, like, it didn't have a guide on the back, but
Oh, yeah.
it's I'll tell you this, it's the sexiest treadmill I've ever been on. It's so nice.
It kind of looks like it could be a tank tread if
It
I'm if
is
I'm
it's a
remembering
beautiful
correctly.
thing. But my grandfather, used to do rowing every morning. So I have a grandfather who's
Okay,
he's
right. Yeah.
gonna be 90 soon. Um,
Outstanding.
and his physical health has kinda taken a dive after COVID as well because he stopped
Yeah.
walking every day, and then all of a
Yeah.
sudden, if you don't use it, you lose it.
Hmm.
So I got the rower, and I love the rower. I think the rower is really great, but I also I struggle with my mental health some days
Yeah.
and, like, am I even inspired to do this? What's going on? Shout out, just got a new therapist too, so we'll see how this works out, you know? Like, it's I think for me, though, it is that nice community. Ironically, though, most of the rides I take are just pre-recorded or they've been recorded a
Hmm.
time ago and you kinda go in. So I'm part of this thing called the Power Zone Pack, and
Hmm.
they give you kind of like a challenge every week you go in, and most of the times it's me. I can go see how I performed on that ride if I've taken it
Ah, yeah, yeah,
before
yeah.
and,
Gotcha. Yeah.
and you're like, "Oh, how are you doing on this?" But one of the greatest things I non-Peloton related that I purchased for
Mhm.
for my health was a thing called a feet up, and it is this thing that does like you do like a headstand in it, and you can and so I'll do after a ride, I'll do my stretching and I'll do that.
Oh, yeah. It's like the inversion board I have.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
which is lifesaver.
Not a joke. We
You're
were
you're
joking.
3 inches taller than you were a year ago.
Well, I had this weird pain in my neck on the night of the 2016 election. So much so that I had to go to the
Oh,
ER
no.
to not I couldn't and I
There were a
haven't
lot of us who had a pain in the neck
yeah, and I
of
was like,
some sort
I
until
haven't been
that
able to,
night.
like, turn my neck in 9 years. I
Mm,
get this thing, and all of a sudden, because your head goes into the done, easy peasy now. Like,
yeah.
gosh.
Well, that's the reason actually I got the inversion board was, I was having some, like, lower back and leg problems, and my PT he was great. He's half a mile down the road. He could take care of me in a heartbeat, but at some point, he's like, "I think this is the problem. Have you thought about an inversion board?" And I'm like, you really want me to take business away from you?" He goes, "No, trust me, I need you
I'll be
healthy."
back.
Yeah. And so I bought one. And yeah, I mean, I do that. If I do that, 5 minutes a day on a good day, maybe 2 or 3 times for 5 minutes on a bad day, it's a game changer. Like it
Mm.
literally just resets my entire day.
Didn't the so when we both worked at BBC, didn't The Office all invest in an inversion?
Oh my goodness. If so, that was after I left.
Remember Linda was and I remember, like, there was, like, a stink eye because I was like, "I don't have the money to invest, guys. I'm a single mom. I don't have it to give you."
Yeah, no, that must have been after I left.
Oh, no, it was
But yeah, those things are. I used to look at them as torture devices, and I love it.
yeah.
Like I'll fall asleep on it. I've actually gone out at about not a full 90, probably about a 70 or 80 degree, and I can fall asleep. I've
Nice.
actually scared my kids as they've come into the garage, and I'm like hanging upside down, and I like suddenly wake up, and they're like, "Ah, sorry."
Okay. Actually, so we had daylight savings in the last week or so as well, and I have Google Nest is all up in my house,
Mhm.
monitoring me, so stay away if you don't like it. Um, but however, the one that's next so I have one next to my bed that monitors my sleep because I worry. I worry about I have family who have sleep apnea, and I'm like,
Mhm. Yeah,
I live by
totally. Yeah,
myself.
totally valid.
I don't know if it gave me, like, this crazy warning sign the other day. It was like, "You're going to bed too early." It was just like, "You screwed up your sleep cycles for
You've
the last
gone to
week.
bed. Yeah, my
You're"
watch is never gonna tell me that.
and I was just like, "Oh, "What is it?" 'Cause I was going to bed at, like, 6 o'clock. I was like, "Well, it's dark out. I'll just go get snuggled up in bed," and I'm falling asleep by 6:30. And it was like, "Don't do this. You're screwing up your sleep schedule." Like, it gave me, like, this
Yeah,
crazy warning, and I'm like, "Oh, for the first time you" and so I've been better about, like, "Okay, let's go for a walk with the dogs."
sure.
I have sundowners these days. Like
Yeah, it's when we first moved up to the Pacific Northwest, there were certain moments in November, especially the first year we were here. I would just be texting my friends down in the Bay Area, going, "Oh my God, it's 3:45 and the sun is gone. What's going on?" Like I can't believe this. And certainly, I would say over time I got used to it. Um, uh, but the last couple of years, especially, like when this time of year rolls around and we switch the time, I'm just like, this is the dumbest idea ever. It's just stick with it and move on. But
You would prefer to
um,
have the daylight savings time versus the regular time?
oh, I'm trying to remember which one is it that's more preferable. I kind of feel like the one we just came from is the one that I like more. Um,
The savings.
yeah, but it's it's like six of one, half a dozen of the other. Like,
Yeah.
for some people it's great, for some others it's not. But you also get a lot of people up here in the Pacific Northwest that, they have to deal with seasonal affective disorder. Like,
Mhm.
there's as one of my friends once joked, there was a reason that heroin was so popular up here. And I'm like, yeah. That and coffee, buddy. And yeah, it's funny too because we were talking about sort of people that talk about about healthy practices, and Andrew Huberman's one of those guys that's like, look, you shouldn't look at your phone first thing in the morning. The first thing you do should be wake up. You should go either outside if you can, or to a window if it's just nasty outside, and just try and get your body to see like natural light and reset that circadian rhythm. And which I totally believe. Like, there are days where I'm like, hey, if I don't pick up my phone for the first half hour I'm awake, that's actually a pretty good thing. Like, I can tell that it's a good thing. Um, and I have no problem standing at the back door of my house and looking to see if we get any sunlight. But at the same time, you're like, oh, it's 7:30, and I'm not seeing a lot of light there. Like, I feel like I need to go back to one of his like FAQs and say, hey, what's your advice for people that are living, north of Portland, Oregon?
Well, I was talking to Dee the other day, and I was like, oh, the sun's going down, because I have a window in the front that I sit in,
Yep.
and it looks out at the rose garden. I was like, oh, the sun's going down. The sun's going down. Sun went down like 15 minutes ago, and I'm like, oh,
Yeah, that's right.
I forget that like
Yeah.
LA is east of Sacramento.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh. We just need like in India, they have like a half hour, like
Yeah, it's a half an hour. Yeah, half an hour. It's funny you should say that, because the times I've traveled internationally, and I used to travel internationally a lot. I used to love going to India because I got for some reason, that 12 and a half hour offset, I got no jet lag. Like, it was perfect. And it was so bizarre. Like, yeah, Europe was a little difficult. Asia could be terribly difficult. But India was just like, boom, I'm good. And, and we were watching a travel show last night, and they were talking about being in Sweden for midsummer, which I've been in Finland for midsummer, and it is really an amazing thing. Like, the sun doesn't go below the horizon. It's, you will be. I distinctly remember we were in Helsinki. We're an outside restaurant cafe. We probably arrived there at like 6:30, 7 o'clock, and suddenly we're looking up, and it's like 11:45. And because it just doesn't feel like the light has changed that much, you realize you've been at this restaurant, with friends for 4 hours.
Pete, that was
like,
him?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And you're like, look at your watch going, well, I guess we should go to bed because we have
It's
a full
like being
day
in
tomorrow.
Vegas.
Yeah.
Which I like Vegas when I'm not paying for Vegas.
I
for Vegas, I'm fine.
My Vegas days are done.
Oh my gosh. I love it. Well, so you recommended a book this week. What were the books you had? You had said, because we had a friend, shout out to
last time I think it was The AI Con by oh my god, I'm blanking on their names. I'm so sorry. That's a great book.
Okay, we've got
Bender and Hannah, I think. But anyway, it's called The AI Con, and the other one is The Empire of AI by Karen Howe, which I have right up there.
Nice.
Both are just excellent surveys of basically what's going on in the AI world, and certainly interesting from the perspective of these are very considered academics and researchers and journalists who have really done a very deep dive and are living this stuff on a daily basis. And yeah, I definitely, anybody who wants to have like a warts and all view of that, I'd say those two, read and then read The Coming Wave by Mustafa Suleiman. I think those are three good places to start.
I love it. And
then of course Peter Audio's.
Oh yeah, yeah. I didn't have the book. I've got the workbook, and I think I have the cookbook.
I get his newsletter, which I find interesting. It's like, I'd say every 2 or 3 of them have something I really like to dive deeper into. But
cheat sheet, if you're single, just order Factor. And that but she'll be like, I'm so tired. I love Factor until I'm like, I'm tired of Factor. And then you have to stop. factor all
Yeah.
the time.
No, we've used it once or well, not once or twice. We've gone like whole months where we've done that, something like that in the past, like that or HelloFresh or what have you.
Mhm.
Um,
I don't have to cook.
Especially when you have little kids, something like that is an absolute godsend. But also when it's just the two of you
Yeah,
or you're taking care of someone, it's like those things are a godsend.
I love it. So we're gonna take a break for a few weeks because you're gonna be traveling, but the
Yeah.
next time we catch up, we're gonna do a deep dive on the science of gratitude and the power of family rituals. And so I'm gonna put a focus question out to everybody. How do we move beyond saying thank you once a year and make gratitude a core daily family habit? Any final thoughts for you, John?
I'm going to be thinking about the whole legacy question for quite a long time. That and to get to the longevity thing, remember folks, get your sleep, eat
Get
your
your sleep.
vegetables, and in keeping with what we'll talk about next time, show a little thanks, show a little gratitude.
I love it. I love it. Well, it was great to catch up.
Always.